All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Families for Everglades Exploring the Everglades Watershed. So even if you did not attend our first session, tonight we're going to be going over different ways that you and your family can explore the Everglades ecosystem. So we're going to be traveling through the Kissimmee, Okeechobee, Everglades ecosystem and discovering the different adventures and activities that you can encounter in different parts throughout the state of Florida with your family. So really the goal of the evening is just to empower you and encourage you to get outside with your children and to learn about the ecosystem all around us. And this ecosystem is so important to the state of Florida. So by getting outside and teaching our children, we're passing on the torch to the next generation to care for the environment that eventually they'll pass on to the next. So again, thanks for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So we believe that a love of nature begins with your family. So these are actually real pictures of me and my family canoeing down the Peace River in Polk County, Florida. So I'm the one in the blue bathing suit. So I remember this trip fondly. We rented a pop-up camper. We traveled with our neighbors, and we even brought our dog. So I remember this trip, and I think back fondly to these memories. So we believe that a love of nature, conservation, and the Everglades starts at home. And a great way to learn about the environment is to get outside with your family. So close your eyes and think back to your childhood and think of a memory that you had with your family in nature. It can be with your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even your friends. Most of us can think back to a time when we explored nature and we think fondly of that moment. And usually that moment has sparked us to care for the natural world around us and share it with others. So tonight, our goal is to recreate those moments with our families. So feel free to share a memory in the chat if this sparked back any memories for you. Remember going to the beach with your parents and loving the water and observing the sand dunes? Absolutely. That's a great memory. Camping as a kid? Thank you. Fishing in the Everglades, going to the creek, a trip to Jamaica, camping, hiking to the waterfalls in Asheville. That's beautiful. Camping in the Everglades, that's really lucky. That's really cool. Fishing off this Skyway Bridge, that's awesome. Longboat Key, camping. Wow, I love it. There's so many different answers in the chat. So thank you all so much. So really, like we said, this love of nature just inspires you to share it with your family and share it with others. So before we begin, let's dive in a little bit about who we are and what we do. The Everglades Foundation is a nonprofit organization that works to restore the Everglades through science, advocacy, and education. So it began in 1993 by two outdoor enthusiasts who loved to get outside and explore, but they were concerned about the health of the Everglades and the health of their water. It has grown immensely since then. So we're part of the education team known as the Everglades Literacy Program. And today we're joined by the Everglades education team. So we have a robust team around the state of Florida. My name is Kim Gooch, and I'm the Everglades Literacy Program Coordinator, and I'm located in Orlando, Florida. So we do have a statewide program. We have employees in Orlando, Palm Beach, Stewart, Miami, and a lot of us are in the chat today, so happy to answer any questions that you have. A lot of us at the foundation, we've had that moment in nature with our family that encouraged us to pursue teaching others about the environment in some way or another. So like I said, the education team is here, happy to answer any questions that you have. Also, you'll be receiving a follow-up email where we'll share our education program resources and a guide that will help you get out and explore this summer. So just some housekeeping rules. Everyone's been doing a great job in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and please select panelists and attendees. And we will also be asking a lot of questions. So we encourage you to participate in the chat throughout the presentation. So we can't talk about exploring the Everglades without first knowing where the Everglades is. So if you were to ask your family where the Everglades is, what do you think they would say? And you can let us know in the chat. They might say it's in Florida, South Florida. They might not know, and that's okay. So one of my favorite things to teach people and students is how close they are to the Everglades watershed. So another question is, do you know how close you are to the Everglades watershed? So that's a really great question to ask your families to get them starting to talk about their environment. So I see South Florida, Homestead, Southern Florida. Those are all really awesome answers. So we're going to take a look at a map. So here we have a map of the Everglades, and the historic Everglades begins just south of Orlando in Shingle Creek near Kissimmee. So historically, water would flow from the Kissimmee chain of lakes through the Kissimmee River and into Lake Okeechobee. Now, Lake Okeechobee would overflow its southern brim into a wide, slow-moving river, nicknamed the River of Grass, and that would stretch all the way from the Atlantic side to the southwest coast of Florida. Now, eventually, fresh water would make its way down into the southern part of the Everglades, that is Florida Bay, and we call this the KOE, or the Kissimmee Okeechobee Everglades Watershed. And the KOE watershed is a freshwater source for almost 9 million Floridians. So tonight we're going to be following the KOE watershed as we explore places to go. So keep that in mind throughout the presentation. So take a look at the map and you'll see that underneath that blue line, that's actually the greater Everglades ecosystem. So if you live anywhere within that blue line, you are a part of the greater Everglades ecosystem from the East Coast all the way to Southwest Florida. So did you know that the Everglades was this big? It's really fun to teach people that, and you can go home and teach your families. But the Everglades has changed over time. So now it's about half its original size, but the remaining Everglades ecosystem still encompasses 3 million acres. In the last 100 years, the Everglades has been altered, changing the natural flow of water due to draining and dredging for agriculture, infrastructure, and flood control. It's divided by canals and levees into units we know as Everglades National Park, Big Cypress National Preserve, and water conservation areas. You can see on these maps that the left-hand side is the historic version, and the right-hand side is the current Everglades water flow, with less water making its way down south and more water being pushed east and west. So we are now living in a reduced, disconnected, and thirsty Everglades. But that's why we're here today. That's why it's so important to teach and inspire the next generation of conservation stewards to continue the mission of protecting and restoring the Everglades. So now we've learned that the Everglades is in our backyard and it's all around us. And even though it has changed, there are so many places in Florida and the Everglades ecosystem that are protected and available for you to visit. So why is it so important for kids to get outside and explore? So we've looked at some research from UC Berkeley, the National Wildlife Federation, and the Children in Nature Network to see how important it is. Some of those reasons are health reasons. It benefits psychological and physical health. It increases the ability to learn, and it helps children build confidence, calm themselves, and focus. Also, learning outcomes. It helps focus attention, and many environmental learning programs with schools have higher scores on standardized tests in math, reading, writing, and listening, as well as increased student performance on critical thinking skills. It's also great for your well-being. So green spaces help relax children. It protects children's emotional well-being, as well as there's better social interactions and close relationships. So it's just all around great for their well-being, as well as the environment. So saving the Everglades is beyond just science, policy, and technology. We need a public community with greater understanding of the ecosystem, and the best way to get outside is to the best way to understand is to get outside and learn and explore. So that's why we're here today. So one of our partners, Odyssey Earth, is filmmaker Richard Kern and his father. They love to explore the Everglades together and teach others about it. And Rich has instilled that in us and his daughter Scout. So he's creating a really fun video that shows us what we may or may not need to survive in the Everglades. So we're gonna have fun and check it out.
Welcome back to the lab, everyone. Today, we're gonna look at some of the gear I rely on to survive the Everglades. Roll intro. So I grew up on the edge of the Everglades, and I've spent a ton of time out there. Let's be honest. This can be a harsh environment, but it is such a unique and important ecosystem, and I try to encourage everyone I meet to get out there and explore it safely, of course. So on the table, I have a bunch of equipment that you will not need. All right, I admit it. I pulled a bit of a bait and switch. Maybe we need a new title. There we go. A lot of people have this impression that you are putting your life at risk every time you wander into the outdoors. That's nonsense. Driving on the expressway is way more dangerous. We put our life at risk every time we drink a soda, or these days, go to the store without a mask. To safely enjoy the Everglades, you don't need a snake bite kit, and you don't need heavy weaponry or a huge knife, although I'm gonna hang on to this one right here. On the flip side, you don't want to be naive and completely unprepared. I've seen plenty of tourists show up to hike a trail in the glades during the summer wearing flip-flops and shorts. They usually last about 60 seconds before they're completely devoured by mosquitoes. Don't be that guy. You're also not going to war, but it's a good idea to be prepared. If you have the right basic gear and knowledge, it'll allow you to appreciate the Everglades for what it is, an amazing and important natural treasure. So first things first, field guides.
Awesome. So we'll be sure to send you the link with the full video of gear you'll need to survive or appreciate the Everglades. So Rich does a really great job of breaking it down for us into 4 different categories. Sun, so that's sunscreen, hat, and sunglasses. Skeeters or mosquitoes, so you'll need bug spray and protective clothing. Sustenance, so water, healthy snack, and more water. And other stuff, so that includes a field guide, binoculars, or a camera. So anything that's going to help you understand and appreciate the Everglades. So even if you don't live in the Everglades watershed, there are still so many other places to explore in the state of Florida. You can see amazing plants and animals and still get outside in nature with your family. So Florida has 3 national parks: Everglades National Park, Dry Tortugas National Park, and Biscayne National Park. There's also the Big Cypress National Preserve, which we'll touch on in a little bit. And there's also 177 Florida state parks. So you can see on this map that they're all over the state of Florida. And many museums and environmental education centers have Everglades or Florida history exhibits that you can check out maybe on a rainy day. And don't worry about remembering all of the places we'll be sharing today. This is a picture of what you'll be getting that shows you the 12 different places to go in the Everglades watershed. So we're going to be following that KOE, or Kissimmee, Okeechobee, Everglades watershed. So we'll just talk about a few of them today, but we'll make sure to send you the full guide as well as some other links and resources to get you outdoors. So let's go ahead and get started in the headwaters of the Everglades. So the headwaters of the Everglades is in Shingle Creek, which is in Kissimmee, just south of Orlando in Central Florida. So you can even see a sign that says Headwaters of the Everglades as you drive on 528 in Orlando. I know I've stopped to take a picture of it before. So from Shingle Creek, water makes a 350-mile journey through the Kissimmee chain of lakes, down the Kissimmee River and into Lake Okeechobee, and eventually down into the Everglades. So a little bit past Lake Kissimmee is the Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park. So it is difficult to find a location in Florida that is further removed from urban and suburban light pollution than Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park. In fact, in 2016, the park was recognized as Florida's first dark sky park by the International Dark Sky Association. You can see stars, planets, celestial bodies. Saturn and Jupiter are sometimes visible, as well as rocket launches from the East Coast, and even the International Space Station. So Kissimmee is a really fun place to explore. And here's a video of me kayaking on Shingle Creek, which is the headwaters of the Everglades. So I put my kayak in right by Hunters Creek Middle School in Orange County. Here we are on Shingle Creek, paddling south towards the Everglades. You can see all of the beautiful trees. The water's pretty clear. You can see the bottom. All the cypress trees and cypress knees. And of course, there are plenty more ways to explore. So at Shingle Creek Regional Park and Paddling Center, there are kayaks, canoes, or stand-up paddleboards that are available to rent, or you can bring your own. And you can even bird watch, bike, and fish. At Kissimmee Prairie Preserve State Park, you can also bike, bird watch, hike, you can horseback ride, or even take a buggy tour, as well as primitive and equestrian camping. And what's really cool, if you want to see the night sky, you can actually reserve a campsite and an astronomy pad to see the beautiful dark sky. So now we're going to move a little bit further south to near Lake Okeechobee, where we're going to be visiting Jonathan Dickinson State Park. So Jonathan Dickinson State Park is located just south of the Hobe Sound Nature Center and Refuge in Martin County. It is flanked by the Loxahatchee River, where you can explore by kayak, canoe, or paddleboard. You can also discover the secret World War II training camp, the shipwrecked Quaker merchant, or even the wild man of the Loxahatchee. So Jonathan Dickinson State Park is the only state park in South Florida where visitors can hike to the top of an ancient sand dune. So this dune stands 86 feet above sea level, and it is the highest natural point south of Lake Okeechobee. So Hobe Mountain Tower rises an additional 27 feet from the mountain. And this observation tower shows beautiful views of the park, intercoastal waterways, and the Atlantic Ocean. So you can see some of those views right here. And you can also mountain bike, which is crazy to think about mountain biking in Florida. But the sand dunes do provide that experience for you. But you can also take a guided nature tour on land, boat, or horseback. Also in this area is Grassy Waters Preserve. So Grassy Waters is a 23 square mile wetlands ecosystem that provides the freshwater supply for the city of West Palm Beach and towns of Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island. It's also a really important nesting area for wading birds and migratory birds during the warmer and wetter months that we're getting into. So you can see this image of the roseate spoonbills. So that's a beautiful pink bird that lives here in Florida, and they will nest at Grassy Waters as well as many other places in the Everglades. So some more things to explore in this area is the beautiful plant and animal community. So the plant community that occupies these sand dunes, the sand pine scrub, is a disappearing habitat which is home to many different plants and animals found nowhere else in the world. So many of these species are endangered, and some live specifically only in Jonathan Dickinson State Park and Florida. An example of that is the Florida scrub jay. So that's that middle picture. And that's an example of a species that is endemic to the Florida sand pine scrub in Jonathan Dickinson State Park. So that means it doesn't live anywhere else. So there's also other species like the Florida scrub lizard or the Florida dancing lady orchid are also found only in the park. And at Grassy Waters, we know it's a really important spot for migratory birds and wading birds. So many of these birds escape those colder weather up north and they head to this area to nest. You can see that image of the beautiful great blue heron catching a fish. So we are moving a little bit further south and a little bit further west to Audubon's Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary. So this sanctuary is a 13,000 plus acres in the Western Everglades. It has a 2.5-mile boardwalk through pine flatwoods, wet prairie marsh, and has the largest remaining strand of old growth bald cypress worldwide. So you can even see that boardwalk and those bald cypress in the image below. It's a really great spot to see wildlife like hundreds of alligators, the Florida black bear, even the Florida panther can be seen here, as well as river otters, barred owls, and more. Another really awesome spot in this area is the Big Cypress National Preserve. So it was established in 1974 as America's first national preserve, and this site protects over 700,000 acres of a vast freshwater swamp ecosystem that supports those marine estuaries on the southwest coast of Florida. So this is different from a national park in that it allows visitors to bring in electric vehicles as well as hunt during assigned seasons. So here we have a video clip of a member of our education team, Annalise. She is taking a sluice log in the cypress swamp during a wet season. So a sluice log is where you put on your hiking boots and pants and you head into kind of the wet slog of the Everglades during the wet season. Something that we love to do as the education team is bring students and teachers down to the sluice log to get their feet wet. So do you think that you and your family would do this?
Have that dome shape already. We can tell that's where we're heading.
So some really neat videos there of getting your feet wet. Yes, Teresa says she would love to do that. So of course, there are plenty more ways to explore in this area. In Audubon's Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, they have the elusive super ghost orchid, which is the largest ghost orchid ever discovered that typically blooms in June or July. But if you do plan to visit Corkscrew to see this super ghost orchid, make sure to bring your binoculars since it's about 50 feet high in an old growth bald cypress, and it's about 100 feet away from the boardwalk. But many people travel there just to see this orchid. Also, Big Cypress National Preserve, you can view one of the darkest skies in the eastern US. You can take a ranger guided hike, go on a swamp buggy, biking, and birding tours, canoe or kayak. There are 8 different campgrounds to camp on, take an off-road vehicle tour, and a scenic wildlife drive. So of course, we are making our way all the way down to Everglades National Park. So the Everglades National Park covers more than 1.5 million acres in South Florida. Most of the park is remote and inaccessible, but there are still plenty of spots for you to dive on in. So that's what we're going to cover. It's the 3rd largest national park in the lower 48 states, and more than 1 million people travel there each year from all over the world to visit. There are so many ways to explore in Everglades National Park, whether it's by foot, bike, airboat, tram, kayak, canoe, or camp. And there are 4 visitor centers for you to start your journey. The first one is Shark Valley Visitor Center. So this is located in Miami. It has a 15-mile loop that takes you through a slough to see some of the park's best wildlife concentrations. There are also tram tours, bike rentals, and walking trails. And there is an observation tower about halfway through the trail that offers beautiful 360-degree views of the Everglades. There's also the Gulf Coast Visitor Center. So that's going to be over in Everglades City near the Gulf side. And here you can take a boat or schedule a sightseeing tour to explore the mangrove estuary of the 10,000 islands. They also offer full moon paddle trips and stargazing programs through the Everglades National Park Institute, as well as a 9-mile paddling program on the weekends guided by an Institute nationalist. There's also the Royal Palm Visitor Center in Homestead, and this is a departure point for 2 interpretive walks. the Anhinga Trail, and the Gumbo Limbo Trail. Long Pine Key is also around this area, and it's a great place for camping. It's right on a pond, and it's a great place where you can see alligators and crocodiles. So this image here shows those differences between the two. In fact, the Everglades is the only place in the entire world where you can find both the American alligator and the American crocodile. And then there is the Flamingo Visitor Center. So this is 64 miles south of Shark Valley. It is a gateway to Florida Bay. It's a great place. You can camp with eco tents and houseboats. You can take a backcountry boat tour or backcountry camping, and it has some of the best flat fishing in the world, as well as crab fishing, shrimping, and lots of birds to see. And they're even building a new restaurant and visitor center right on the water. There are some really cool ways to explore the Everglades, and there are really cool ways to explore the Everglades wilderness. So that is called the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Wilderness. And this is a large part of the Everglades National Park. It contains the largest designated wilderness east of the Rocky Mountains. And the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Wilderness comprises over 1 million acres. So that's actually most of the Everglades National Park. In fact, you can see this map on the screen that shows you where that wilderness is. Now, if you think you're up for it, you can also go wilderness camping. So wilderness camping is where you're really roughing it out in the wilderness. There are a couple of different ways to do this. So ground sites, those are mounds of earth that are a few feet higher than the mangroves located on interior rivers and bays. There is beach camping. So this is located on the coast. You can camp on the sand along the shoreline. And this is a great spot where you can see sea turtles and crocodile nests on the beaches in late spring and summer. But of course, you want to leave them alone. And there's also the Everglades cheeky huts or cheeky camping. So you can travel through the miles of mangroves to arrive at the cheeky huts. These are sheltered camping platforms standing in the water. It's like your own man-made mini island in the open water of a mangrove swamp. So these are some really cool areas that you would like to go out. So I know camping in the Everglades is really popular during the winter months because there are a lot of mosquitoes. So if you are planning your trip, you definitely want to check these out for in the winter. And last but not least, our journey through the Everglades watershed ends in Florida Bay. So as freshwater moves down through the Everglades National Park, it empties out into Florida Bay, which is a brackish estuary, meaning it has both freshwater and saltwater. So Florida Bay and the Everglades National Park protect more subtropical lands and water than anywhere else in the United States. And the park also contains the largest mangrove ecosystem in the Western Hemisphere. And mangroves are super important to the Everglades as well as Florida. They are important because they help trap carbon dioxide. It provides a nursery for young fish, filter the water, and protect from flooding. This is just a great place to go fishing, boating, kayaking, or camping. So just a beautiful place to explore. So now that we've showed you just a few of the places that you can explore in the Everglades watershed, let us know in the chat where you think that you would like to explore with your families. I see the eco tents. Yeah, those are a great and wonderful way for new campers. Someone says they would love to go wilderness camping one day. Yeah, definitely do your research and learn about the wilderness. That's really cool. Some of the most remote and beautiful places. Would love to visit Florida Bay. The water looks serene. Absolutely. Yeah, that crystal clear blue water. Want to camp on a cheeky wilderness camping. Yeah, I know I've lived in Florida my whole life and I never knew that cheeky camping was a thing until I started working for the Everglades Foundation. So it's really cool, that we have these amazing opportunities in our states, in our own backyard. Next adventure in Shark Valley, you can plan on renting a bike and riding to the observation. That's perfect to do with your family, a nice bike ride. Stargazing at the Kissimmee Preserve Park, 100%. That would be so cool to go camping and see the beautiful stars, walking through the slough. Wonderful. These are great suggestions. So thank you all so much for sharing. Whether you're planning for the summer or maybe planning for the winter time, whether you think you want to do a day trip or plan a full vacation, we really encourage you to explore your backyard, explore what's in Florida, explore what's in the Everglades. There are so many amazing things that you can do with your families. Yeah, lots of dark sky opportunities, alligators and crocodiles, wilderness camping, a lot of really fun stuff. I love it. So while you're out there, we want to remind you that the Everglades is super important to us, the environment, and the economy. So here's just a few of those reasons why the Everglades is so important. And of course, the water supply. The Everglades provides the water for 9 million Floridians and tourists each year. The economy, South Florida's economy relies on the Everglades. Also, boating and fishing contribute billions of dollars to Florida's economy each year. The Everglades restoration projects create at least 65,000 jobs. Tourism is the largest industry in Florida, and it's really important to the Everglades, as well as real estate, so all of the people who are moving to Florida, and of course, families. So we know that spending time in the Everglades with your families is great for your health and well-being. So again, we really encourage you to consider that when you're planning your next summer vacation. So we hope you enjoyed your journey through the Kissimmee, Okeechobee, Everglades watershed. So pack your bags, it's time to explore. Don't forget your water. So don't forget to pack your reusable water bottles and thank the Everglades for supplying 9 million Floridians with clean, fresh water. Don't forget a map. Grab a map and plan your trip. See where you are in the KOE watershed or Florida and discover the best way to explore that area. And you can grab a wildlife guide. So this is a great way to look around and see what plants and animals you can find. So there are different plants and animals that might be specific to an area that you're going. So you definitely want to check that out. And like I said, we will be sure to send you more information on ways to explore the Everglades in our resource packets that you'll be receiving by email. So just to recap, if you've enjoyed our presentation today, we encourage you to share with your community, your child's school, your friends, your family. The education team is known as the Everglades Literacy Program, and our goal is to empower the next generation of conservation stewards by investing in teachers and parents to drive cultural change within schools for the benefit of local and ecological communities. So we provide free standards-aligned K-12 interdisciplinary curriculum, distance learning resources, teacher trainings, classroom presentations, field trip opportunities, and community partners throughout the state of Florida. So you can certainly learn more at www.evergladesliteracy.org. So thank you so much for joining us today. There is only one Everglades in the world, and the best way to protect it is to learn about it with our families. One of my favorite quotes that has really inspired me to pursue environmental education is, in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. The education team is here. We'll be sticking around, happy to answer any questions that you have. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. We'll certainly be sharing with you all of our resources. Let's explore and conserve our beautiful Everglades. Absolutely. Thank you. Any specific bug repellent? In Richard's video, he does talk about specific bug repellent, so we'll be sure to send that link. That's a great question. Yeah, bye everyone. Thank you so much. Do any of the parks have rangers? Great question. They do. Yes, yeah. So of course the Everglades National Park has park rangers that are fantastic. They're a wealth of information. They're trained to answer your questions, help you explore. Even just exploring Everglades National Park website. They have, they can help you plan your trip. They even have you a guide for what to pack when you're going tiki camping or anything like that. Yes. And Big Cypress as well. Thank you. Do you have to worry about alligators? I would say that the alligators are probably more afraid of you than you are afraid of them. There was a great question by Vincent. Are there any professional development for high school teachers? Absolutely. We offer K through 12, 6 through 12, or even 9 through 12 Everglades literacy teacher training. So definitely send us an email. You can email us at info@evergladesliteracy.org. Many of my students are visiting the Everglades this morning or this summer. Fantastic. Does Richard do personal tours? I don't think so, but definitely check out his website. Looking at airboat tours, do you suggest mangroves or sawgrass? There's some really great airboat tours in water conservation areas in the Everglades. So those would be in the sawgrass marsh. A great way to explore mangroves are on kayak or on canoe. What do you like teaching about the Everglades? I love that question. So I love to explain how big the Everglades is, where the Everglades is, how close we live to the Everglades, and how we can protect it. All right, we are going to log off now. But again, thank you so much for joining us and have a great rest of your day.